Yo, Tara, what up, E?
What's going on? Man, those are some nice medals.
Yeah, man, these are hard to come by.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 of them.
Well, that's nothing like going to March Madness, though.
We did go to a national championship.
Okay, guys, whatever. Let's just get on the Montana party bus and head over to Press Box for lunch.
Yeah.
Nuanez Now and Skyline Sports, covering Montana athletics and the Big Sky Conference better than anybody. The Montana Party Bus and the Press Box are also proud supporters of Montana athletes.
Hey, cheers to you guys, man. Cheers to Montana. Cheers to chasing more dreams.
There's always a party in Montana, whether you're going to a wedding, a football game, a concert. Montana Party Bus can get you there safe and will take you anywhere in Montana. You can relax with friends in style, luxury, and safety. Western Montana based for local and regional travel within Montana borders. Montana Party Bus is great for both large and small groups with a capacity of up to 30 guests. If you want to elevate your event, call them anytime, 406-200-8096. You can also visit mtpartybus.com. Travel anywhere in Montana in style with the Montana Party Bus. Big Sky Breakdown, SkylineSportsMT.com. Probably presented in part by Jewelry Design Center. Jewelry Design Center has locations throughout the Northwestern United States, including in Missoula, right across from the Montana Club on Brooks. They can design anything you could possibly imagine, anything your heart desires. They made my wedding ring for me, made my wife's for her as well. Jewelry Design Center wants to be your jeweler for life. Brooks Nuanez joining us here on the Big Sky Breakdown. All right, so you've been wavering. Well, not wavering, but you needed to have a little bit of a prove it from Kaylee Ah Yat when it comes to the Griz. Last week, I thought, I think it's pretty inarguable as his greatest game as a Griz. I know it was against a lower level opponent, but certainly 22 of 27 for 315 yards and 2 touchdowns and first Big Sky Conference Player of the Week award in his career. So what sort of impact did that have on your analysis of Montana's sophomore quarterback?
Well, it's huge, right? I mean, potential is only a thing when it's realized. So I think everything that he put on what you'd call put on tape was the real deal. I mean, I thought that a lot of it, Colter, was the Montana coaching staff deciding or rather leaning into some of his strengths, which I thought was huge, right? I mean, I think we've talked a lot about him being on the move, moving the pocket a little bit, roll out, little play action, taking deep shots, not just dink and dunking, not trying to get something going, but rather just let it unleash. I think there's been a lot of, well, let's get him a couple easy throws and then he'll get warmed up and start to get hot. I think he's a gamer. I think you just let it rip and you deal with the pick, the interception, maybe even 2 he throws in any given game because he's going to have such a high ceiling with that way. Don't try to raise his floor up. Let his ceiling be what it is. And I think that was something that they kind of, leaned into a little bit more. So I was impressed, man. I mean, when he's hot and when he's rolling, I always call it, he's out there hooping, right? I mean, he's doing it. Like he's out there, making big shots and taking big plays. And it was awesome to watch. I mean, I've always rooted for him as in the sense of he's got a big thing to live up to, right? I mean, his expectations, whether they're right or wrong, come from a long legacy of Griz tradition. And that's a lot to step into and then have to kind of shoulder. And he's still a young dude. And in that sense, as a human perspective, I've always been like, man, I hope this guy, doesn't fall off a cliff here. And he rose to the occasion.
JP Flynn and I were talking about this last night, one of our good buddies, former Bobcat offensive lineman. We were talking about the concept of guys being allowed, having the trust of their coaches and being allowed within the construct of the offense to make plays outside of the scope of what was called. And I do think that the infiltration of technology and the fact that everybody has an iPad, everybody's got Huddle, everybody's got All 22, it gets downloaded all the time. It's made college football so much more advanced and so much more systematic, but also probably less improvisational. Like the Big Sky at its height was so fun to watch because you had the Vernon Adams and the Gage Guberts of the world at Eastern Washington, the Denarius McGee's and Dakota Precops of the world at Montana State, even the Jordan Johnsons of the world at Montana. And, on down the line, guys like, who was the homie that Weber State had? Jadarian Clark. That guy's a great improv guy. Garrett Saffron at Sac State. Dudes that, like, you call the play okay, the play breaks down, but these guys would keep the play alive. And it wasn't so much like this gun run, design, zone read, Tommy Malott, Chris Murray type of guy. It was more like a guy that would just roll out, keep scanning the field, boom, make a play. To me, that's what Ah Yat is. And I just hope, like you said, I hope
Yeah.
they take the reins off it and let him make some plays. Because the thing is, guys like that, guess what? You're going to make some mistakes. You are. You're going to make some mistakes. You'll throw a bad pick or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's the thing that's going to carry you over the top. He kind of reminds me of some of the Ah Yat does. Kind of reminds me of some of those old school Eastern guys. Not the arm talent. He's got a good arm. He doesn't have the arm talent of like Vernon Adams. I mean, who does? Nobody. But he does kind of remind me of like those guys. He kind of reminds me of Gubrud in his ability to kind of move and groove and throw it and stuff like that. He's got a long ways to go. I mean, Gubrud's one of the greatest players we've ever covered. But I do think Ah Yat, if they let him roll, he's got high level potential for sure.
Yeah, man, he's got juice, and when the juice is loose, you got to let it go. You can't just put that in a container. You can't box up someone who's got that kind of potential. And yeah, you can compare him to a lot of guys. I think he throws a great deep ball. I think he throws a great ball, anywhere from 15 to 30 yards down the field, kind of that intermediate ball. And he's proven just by the way that they've designed the offense that he can hit a 4 yard out and he can throw the little tunnel screen. And so now he's developed kind of three levels of passing. He struggles when the pocket gets messy and when he has a little bit of pressure and tries to throw it across the middle of the field, kind of on that second or third read, he does struggle. I mean, every pick he's thrown this year has pretty much been in a messy, distorted pocket. And I think that's them kind of hoping that the fundamentals of traditional quarterback play keep him in the pocket there. Don't let your lineman lose because you broke the pocket. That's what he's going to have to do. And I think that would also play well to their offensive line as well, who's not necessarily the strongest unit on the team, not necessarily the strongest unit we've ever seen, right? I mean, they're in the middle of the road right now as far as giving up sacks and their ability to pass protect. That doesn't matter if you have a guy who can keep plays alive. So if it services the quarterback and it services the offensive line, let them get downhill run blocking, and otherwise let them just kind of hold water as long as they can. Those are the two units you need, and now your receivers are going to benefit from it. So, yeah, I agree with you, Colter. I mean, it's you see the talent there. I think he's a confidence-driven player. Someone with confidence, you got to let it rip.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
On the other side of the rivalry, Montana State had one of the weirdest games I've ever seen. This
I couldn't even rewatch it because it was just like I don't even know what there was to see.
I rewatched it right afterwards, right after we got done at Washington Griz on Saturday, and it sort of was like this blur of a game because there were so few possessions. So I tried to rewatch it again, and I watched the first half, skipping the commercials and stuff, and the first half it blew by because the Cats only had the ball twice, and then
it was like 50 minutes.
They kicked the field goal right before halftime on their third possession after they had gotten a stop, and you're like, wow, how did that all happen? I guess the point is that there's this narrative going around that the Cats should have won that game like 55-0 or whatever. I think they won last year 57-13. I think people expected a similar score. They were 31.5-point favorites coming into it. But like Tom Stuber said, I thought this was so accurate. A great observation by Stuber. He's like, if you only have 6 possessions in a game, and then you turn the ball over once, which the Cats did, and then you settle for a field goal right before halftime, you literally can't score more than 31 points. Like the most you could have won that game by is 31-0. So again, I'm not making any sort of excuses for the Cats. I just thought it took a lot of balls from Mercyhurst to come in and say, okay, we literally are going to do this from start to finish. We are playing this game to not lose 57-13. We are playing this game to lose by as little as we possibly can. I think that that's sort of frustrating, probably, but also, I mean, you got to give them some credit because it does take some onions to be able to actually come into an environment like that and actually convince yourself to do that.
Yeah, I mean, but isn't that the play? Like, you're not going to outscore a team like that on the road in
Right,
that kind of environment. You're just
right.
not going to. So might as well try to keep it as close as possible. I mean,
Yeah, you just play keeper. That's
Mercyhurst,
what you're trying to do.
Mercyhurst is going. What are they going? Sac State, Montana State, South Dakota State. I think they're just trying to survive, man. You're going to go on those 3 road trips back and forth to Pennsylvania, to South Dakota, to Bozeman, Montana. I mean, come on, that's like murderer's row at the highest level. And I know they're a FCS team, but I mean, it's Mercyhurst, right? Like, I'm not knocking these guys. I think they probably can have a great experience playing at these places, but I think as a coach, I think that's putting your team in the best position that you can.
Also, to be completely fair, they are decent. Like they had some dudes. They had several dudes. Like they were. Tutel and I were talking about this. I think the name holds them back
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
nobody's heard of it, and it just seems like a joke of a school. You just assume they're like,
It's not even a joke. It just sounds like D3.
yeah, right. And that's
Yeah.
what they were. They were D2
Yeah.
forever. That's like, but now they're moving up. But if they were just called Eastern Pennsylvania University,
Yeah.
it would just be
Yeah.
totally different, right? Like if they were just Erie, Pennsylvania College, it would be different than Mercyhurst because you just assume, okay, this must be a tiny school, and it is. It must be a private school, and it is. But Ben Buckdo has been making videos for us in Bozeman. Shout out, Ben. Great job. Been making some cool reels and stuff like that. But he always has this cool montage of like it flashes back and forth between each team running down on the kickoff for the first time during the game. You look at Mercyhurst, you're like, dude, dude, dude. Like you can just see them when they're running. It doesn't look like, Division III John Hopkins University or whatever. They look like an actual kind of good FCS football team. I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to make excuses for the Cats. I also think that there's a real sort of human element there where you saw the monster. You played Oregon. And then you parlayed that into playing basically you know, a national playoff game on Gold Rush, basically. You're playing in a game that's in a determined seeding. You're playing against a team that's been in the Final Four for 7 years in a row in South Dakota State, and you lose both of those. So then you have this chip on your shoulder to get your first win, and you do that. You destroy San Diego, and then you have this fourth game that just seems like this last tune-up. And
Yeah.
I just think it's easy to just say, well, it's Mercyhurst, whatever. And the last thing I'll say is that they were rotating. They rotated the offensive line incessantly. Like they wanted to play a whole bunch of guys at a whole bunch of different spots. Like Titan Fleischman was playing up and down, both guard spots, playing on the right side. Burke Mastel came back. He did actually play center, though. They were getting a lot of guys in the rotation. I think that also just impacts the way you operate offensively. All that said, I know a lot of people want to make a lot of this game and say, man, the Cats must be struggling. The Cats are down. What's going on with the Cats? I just don't think so. I think that game was a once-off. What I see from Montana State from an eye test and a talent standpoint, they still have elite FCS talent. I think they probably just had a poor outing on Saturday, and they also fell into a weird sort of trap. I guess a team that wanted to hold the ball, all the livelong day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, coming out of rewatching that game, I think I know less about the Cats than I've ever known this season, which is, I don't even know. I mean, it's unfortunate because at this point, you kind of want to know what a team is. And there's times where I watch them and I'm like, man, like they are nasty on defense. They have skill position players. I'm impressed with Lamson at quarterback. I think he's got a skill set that they haven't had in a while. Not better, not worse. It's just different. They haven't had a guy like him in a long time.
Who is he even like? Have they had a guy like him
No,
in the time that we covered it together?
I don't think
It's
so.
unfair to call him Denarius McGee, but that's the style he's the most like of the guys they've had.
Yeah,
Because he's not Perkop by any stretch of the imagination. He's way more mobile and athletic than Jake Bleskin or Tucker Rovin.
yeah. I was thinking Blesky, but he's more athletic than that.
And he's bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
real deal 6'2", 200. You know, he's big.
Right.
Yeah, they haven't
Yeah.
really had a guy like that.
No, and he's good. I mean, I've actually been impressed. But again,
He is
then
good.
there's times where I'm watching them and you're like, they can't run the ball really like effectively. At times, sure, but like it's
How much of that is just because of how much they ran the ball the last 8 years, though? I mean, they're rushing for 219 yards per game right now.
well, they had San Diego was a different game. I mean, and they ran the ball pretty well against South Dakota State too. But yeah, it does play. I mean, yes, of course. I mean, they can't just change everything. Yes, it does matter what they did in the past because that's how they're built.
Like I talked to Thomas Ford, Idaho's coach, this last, I guess, 2 days ago, and I said, "How do you think your offensive line's played?" He goes, "Great. We're rushing for 150 yards a game." And I was like, "Man, my brain is so broken because the gold standard of rushing used to be like in all of the times we've covered college football, it was like 175 to 200 yards was great. 225, you're just beating a team's ass. 250, like you are crazy over the top." And then it's been broken in our brains because the Cats have averaged 7 yards a carry for like 7 years in a row. And so much that because you got the craziest running quarterbacks that the league has ever seen. It plays into it for sure.
It does, but you can't say that they had last year Adam Jones and Julius Davis, and now they have Adam Jones and Julius Davis. Like they have 3 or 4 offensive linemen that have been there. I get there's 2 young guys. They're moving people around. I mean, it just is what it is. Adam Jones is probably averaging 65 yards a game. It's like he's a preseason player of the year. I would say that they're probably under that unit, and just some of those stars are probably underperforming in that sense. You got to run the football if you're going to be Montana State because, like you just said, dude, they've been doing it for a decade. You can't just be like, we're not doing it anymore, and now we have this other thing because they don't really have the other thing. Sure, they have the intermediate short passing game that's been quite efficient, and Lamson's been able to have an insane accuracy level. I mean, he's probably completing 70% of his passes.
75 leads the country.
Leads the country, right? He's going 22 for 26 every game, right? Which is impressive, and that's a new, unique fold. It just looks different. Regardless, on defense, I do think the Cats look pretty good. I think there's some stars there, and some guys that are really, the secondary looks awesome for being young and inexperienced, and I think that they have a lot of potential, but it does look different. And again, at this point of the season, it's just my analysis. I know less about them, about their ceiling, or what I think is going to make them have a chance to be a top 4 semifinal contending, national championship contending team. I know less about that than I did at the beginning of the season, and that would probably be a concern if I was, a Cat fan or someone within that program. I would want to know a little bit more about what the identity is.
Hello, my name is Ah Yat, quarterback at the University of Montana. In the off-season, it's important to do everything you can to prepare for the season. In high school, that means funding your program. In my experience, Vertical Raise is the ultimate online fundraiser platform. Now broaden your reach of your fundraiser and bring in more money than other platforms. And there are no sneaky or hidden fees like other companies. If you're trying to raise money for your program, reach out to Vertical Raise today.
So let's start with, how would you characterize the real estate market currently in both Missoula and Western Montana?
Well, currently in Missoula, we've seen a rise in inventory and buyer activity slow down a little bit. So it's turning more into a buyer's market, more than I've probably ever seen in the last 10 years or so.
So what does that mean, a buyer's market? How would you define that?
A buyer's market is really just means that there's more homes for sale than there are buyer demand. So buyers have choices, especially in negotiations.
And that means less leverage for somebody that's selling their house, more leverage for somebody that's tried to buy a house, correct?
Correct. More leverage for buyers.
Okay, so if you are a buyer and you hire you as your realtor, how do you go about then sort of taking advantage of that said advantage?
Well, right now you have the upper hand in negotiations, right? And first we start with a CMA and get a value and see where that price falls in, or where the value is for the buyers. And then there's other things that we can negotiate, such as like seller concessions to help buy down the interest rate, or give you a temporary break or relief on an interest rate to help with that monthly payment. So
if people want to find out about that and other listings that you have, how do they find them?
Best way is just get a hold of me by phone, 406-544-9794.
Last couple points on Montana State. They'll go back to Montana quickly. Adam Jones, 43 carries for 135 yards. So he's averaging 34 yards per game right now. He does have 3 touchdowns. I think that
Right.
there's three things that are factoring into that. I think they are having a transformation of identity in terms of their offensive operation for sure. He also had surgery in the offseason and he missed spring ball. They've downplayed that quite a bit, but you have to wonder if that's affecting a slow start for him, just sort of working his way back.
Do we know what kind of surgery, or is that
I
up for
don't know.
grabs? Or
Yeah, no,
gotcha.
I don't know what kind. But you have to wonder if that's holding them back a little bit. And then I think there's the third part where last year nobody knew who he was. Everybody was they're trying to slow down Tommy Millott and Julius Davis and Scottrey Humphrey and Rohan Jones and Taco Deller and all these guys. And Adam Jones gets all the cleanup uh, of all of that. And now he's the guy that's, him and Taco are probably the two guys that are top on the scouting report. So I think that's impacted it. Last thing I'll tell you about Montana State, which I thought this was stunning. I added this detail to one of Tom Stuber's stories. We know that the Cats graduated 23 seniors. Their roster includes 29 true freshmen, 22 redshirt freshmen, and 26 sophomores. They only have 8 seniors on the whole roster, and only 7 of them play. That's
Well, there you go.
That's the least amount of seniors I've ever seen. You go from 24 seniors to 7. I think you're going to have and you switch coordinators on both sides of the ball, and offensive line coach, and running backs coach. I mean, they basically have a whole new staff. So I think that's probably as indicative of why it seems like they're searching more than any other factor.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's, sometimes you can't control those things. You can't really just manufacture seniors. You can get transfers and stuff, but you can't get program guys if they're not there. And there are at times gaps, especially with big classes. If you have a bunch of big classes, you have to take a smaller class. I mean, that's just kind of how that goes. You have attrition, you have injury. You know who doesn't care about that? North Dakota State.
That's right. That's right. South Dakota State, et cetera, for sure. Okay, so back to the Griz then. Montana has certainly made strides, I think. I think last week they made strides, even though it was against an overmatched opponent. But that said, now they got, a real measuring stick game coming up against Idaho. And Idaho has been really good defensively. They were right down the wire with both Washington State and San Jose State. Basically a possession away from being 4-0 with 2 FBS wins under a first-year head coach. And the one thing that I think is still true about Idaho, that's a carryover from when Jason Eck was there, is Idaho's not scared of anybody, not the least of which is Montana. Well, I interviewed Jake Cox, the senior captain, tight end for the Vandals, and he says we can't wait to go steal the Little Brown Stein back. Like we're jacked for this game. So I wonder how much just the emotion and sort of the vitriol that exists between these two programs plays into this week's game. What do you think of just this big test for the Griz? What is it going to take for Montana to sort of rise to the occasion, since they haven't really been tested by an opponent like this yet so far this year?
I mean, I think it's the biggest game of the season for the Griz. I really do. I mean, obviously, come November 18th, we have Cat Griz and all that. I mean, that game is obviously a different thing. But as far as just a statement game and a game that you really need to take advantage of the opportunity that is in front of you, I think this is probably the biggest game of the year. Mostly because it's how early it is. I mean, it really plays and it really matters for how the season will progress and teams that you're going to have to beat later on. If you don't get this one, it makes those things a whole lot different. So for the Griz, I think it's huge. I think just what we talked about on top, Colter, I think that they have to absolutely let it rip. I think that they're at times have been, especially, Bobby Hauck has talked about it, and I think it's a little bit of, I don't know what you'd call it. It's not placating, but he's talking about kind of setting a foundation of we're young and inexperienced. So like we might lose a game or two. Like he said things that are like, are you setting this up so when it happens, you're like, well, I knew this was coming the whole time. There's a little like inherent lack of confidence in that, which is, I don't think what he's trying to portray is the confidence issue. It's a reality of the inexperience on the team. But for that being said, I think when you go into a game like this, you got to act like the Montana Grizzlies. You got to act like you're playing at home. You got to act like you're playing on ESPN, and you got to absolutely let it rip, especially on defense. You got to play fast and physical and, do the things that the coaches say all the time. Those cliches, I think, come true in a game like this where you have Idaho coming in, who is a true, it's a rivalry. I mean,
Oh yeah,
and there's no doubt about it. And Idaho makes that well known, probably more than the Griz do. I think Bobby kind of talks about it like, yeah, historic rival. There's bad blood here. There's a whole history of things that really matter in a game like this. And when you're at home on ESPN2 at 8:30 at night, I mean, I imagine that you should probably party on the pile like you haven't done in recent memory. So yeah, I mean, I think that they got to go all out for this one.
it's so interesting watching all three, Montana State, and Idaho, early in the year here, because all three have better talent than I expected them to have. Like I thought the
agree.
bottom was going to fall out talent-wise in the Big Sky because you lose all these players that have been around forever and ever. I mean, it's been like basically the post-pandemic era have been anchored by these same guys like Tommy Mellott, Miles Hastings, Lan Larison, like Eli Gilman at Montana, and to his credit, he stayed, and that's helped boost the whole thing, right? Adam Jones and Taco Dowler, they stayed at Montana State. Paul Broad, all those guys, but also then the influx of transfers the Griz have brought in, that talent is very apparent. So Bobby Howe can sit here and placate all he wants about young team, whatever. He's got a team that's talented enough to make a deep run. And they
For
have
sure.
they have to just absolutely embrace that. But it's the same thing at Idaho. Like Thomas Ford, he did such a great job of re-recruiting his roster because the whole team was in the portal when Eck left, and that was totally expected. Like I think Eck's such a player's coach. I think he thought that was going to happen. But guess what? Ford recruited half those guys. So the guys that went there because of Thomas Ford selling them, they are all like, "Oh, we're out of the portal. We're going to go play for this guy." And I think that has helped boost Idaho's talent too. So I think you're seeing though how important chemistry and continuity and operation is for football teams though, because the thing to me that is the thing that leaves something to be desired when you watch all of the top 10 teams right now in the FCS, it's all that stuff. The talent is actually way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and you're so right. I mean, it just takes time to develop timing and all the continuity it takes, especially on defense, just the calls and the adjustments, and offense, the timing with the routes, and even just the handoffs. I mean, handing off a football is harder than you think, and it takes a lot of freaking work. And alignment, offensive line, just communicating calls and just knowing each other and knowing how to pass stuff off. And it takes a tremendous amount of time and effort. And that's why the offseason, that's why football's a year-round sport. That's why the offseason is so important. And you talked about someone like Adam Jones missing spring ball. You're like, well, he's a stud. He'll be fine. It's like, no, it matters, man. He hasn't worked with Lamson as much, or he hasn't worked with the two new offensive linemen that are freshmen. Like they don't know how he likes to hit the hole or when he's going to bounce it, or that stuff matters for sure. So I agree with Idaho being, a team that is more talented than I probably anticipated. And Thomas Ford can recruit. You hear him talk, you're like, this guy can go out and get some players. He definitely kind of sell you something that he can likely deliver on, at least energy wise. And you have a coach like that who lives that kind of fearless lifestyle, and kind of that his demeanor is, I think that you hear teams talk about embracing Washington Grizzly Stadium. You're like, good luck with that. But the ones that do, you can ride it, man. And you can have big time performance in that kind of big time atmosphere. And I think that Idaho, whether they'll do that or not, who knows? But I do think that they are at least mentally prepared for the game that they're going to experience on Saturday.
Brooks Nuanez, Big Sky Breakdown. Thanks for being here, man.
Yep. Thanks.